All right, welcome back, everyone. It is time for a state of the market update. So, the big question is, are we on the cusp of a breakout right now? We're seeing Bitcoin really just knocking on the door, really just ran past it almost. We're roughly at about $31,000 now for Bitcoin. And the question is the market getting ready to break out? Is this an inkling of an idea of what's about to take place over the next few months? So let's dissect this a bit and kind of get a tone of the market. So what we've seen here in the past is that the $30,000 mark, and we're using Bitcoin because Bitcoin is really a strong indicator of capital inflow into the market and really gives you an idea of what institutional money is doing. And of course, it's always been an indicator for the tone of the market. So if we look at history here and kind of get an idea of what to expect at this level, we'll see that the $30,000 mark was a battleground the last time we were here. And this was on the cusp of a breakdown. So we had a lot of pushes back and forth here before we finally got that breakdown. But then again, that was pretty much the initial pattern here. We saw this consolidation period, and then we have a drop by, I think it was around like 5,000. And we have this consolidation period, and we dropped another what was this? It was 10. Maybe it was 10. Let's see. Yeah, $10,000 drops, excuse me. So had this consolidation period around 30 or 40,000, had this $10,000 drop to 30, consolidation period, $10,000 drop to 20, and we rebounded. We had a little drop down there. So let's go back a little further to this green line is going to give us an idea, and we'll see that we got some bounces here around this mark. So this back in, what is this, June of 2021, the $30,000 mark acted as a pool of liquidity when we initially hit this before we had a rally back up. And this was a descend from around the $60,000 mark before we went back up and retested it. So we see a couple stories here, and we see here this was also a pool of liquidity, and then before we had that initial incline. So what does that mean? This means that the $30,000 mark is really important to the entire movement, because if you are trying to break through it, that it is pretty much acting as a resistance. If you once you break through it, that same mark can then turn into support, which history backs that up as far as what we're looking at right now. So it is relatively important that not only do we maintain this level, but it also for Bitcoin to get on the other side of it. And on the other side of it, typically that means that we're looking at a getting to like the rejection above the $30,000 mark, right? So the question is, where is the rejection above the $30,000 mark? Assuming that we don't get rejected at 30,000, that's the $1,000,000 question. And we have a gap here, so we were looking at 40 for where that next rejection would be if this gap fills. So this is why a lot of people are getting excited, saying, okay, this is potential for the breakout here, because if you have this consolidation here and we break through it, there's a potential that we can fill this gap. So that means a $10,000 run for Bitcoin. So that's why you see people getting excited. And you see what happened here last time. We had a $10,000 run off of the rejection. And then we see, what do we have here? We have about a $15,000 run the last time we rejected here. So what is this here? From 30 to 10 to 15. So this is really crucial here to building up this next run. This is all an inkling as far as what's going to take place going into the market. So if we're looking to see, just based off of taking the most recent data here, what's our actual number? Even when we had this wedge, let's see, looking at around like 32,000. Let's see if we can confirm that with some more hits over here. 32, 34. Yeah, so we're looking at giving a range here that we'll need to break above and probably we even retest the 30 in that range, but that's going to be 32 to 34,000. Like that $2,000 range there is going to be very important. We're roughly at around 31,000 now. So we have, I'll say what, about 1,200 more to go before we get into that range. And then we can see, okay, are we holding strength here? Do we need to go down and grab some more liquidity, or are we going to go on that run? Once you get above that, then you can start to get some evidence to say that, okay, well, let's see if Bitcoin is going to, if the $30,000 mark is going to hold, and this could be our setup for that big run to go to 40,000, because we've seen historically, like the last 3 to 4 times, that's a $10,000 run for Bitcoin. That's very interesting. But let's also take a look here to see on the RSI side. Now, typically for Bitcoin, this is something similar. You see this with Doge as well, because you'll say that, oh, okay, well, it's at the oversold section, which is true, but you'll see that it is very normal for Bitcoin to blow past that 70 mark and hit, what is this, like 86, 90? And you'll see this a few times now where it overshoots. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to consolidate, because you'll see that even though you have those breakout moments where it goes above the 70, but if you take a look more closely, you'll see that it is often respected, and you'll see that sell-off period when you start getting close to the 70 mark, right? So even though there's those moments where it can overshoot, it is respected. So this is why all eyes is on this $30,000 mark, because there's so many indicators. There's so many, no matter which indicator you like to use, you can't deny that 30,000 is a very crucial point for the coin and really an indicator for the market. So the question is, are we going to get that run? And as of right now, I'll still say we're still kind of like in between those pools of liquidity, because we're there, but even with these candles here, like the volume and stuff like that, the volume and stuff is not there to kind of say, okay, well, we're going to run up to that 34 level and probably get a sell and probably get some downward pressure here and consolidate at around 30,000. The volume seems weak right now. So if we do not build strength here relatively quickly, you can expect a slight rejection here. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to, fall all the way back down to the 30 range or something like that. But it does mean that, we can revisit probably like 29 and stuff like that, which is really where the battleground has been, considering that we're at 31 right now. So it's not the end of the world. It just means that we have to grab some more liquidity before you can retest and try again. And that's typically how this game works. You go from liquidity pool to liquidity pool, right? So let's take a look here at Doge. Idea what's going on here. And last time we were talking, we saw that it got the rejection here after the 70. It was respected that time. And again, same thing like what we were talking about with Bitcoin. You'll see that sometimes it blows that 70 out of the water, but more often than not, it is respected. So, and it was respected last time. So that just gives you like an idea of what's going on. We're at 906 right now. So again, low volume here, not necessarily saying that, but this is certainly a stronger candle than what we're seeing with Bitcoin. But, obviously this is a lot cheaper coin. So we're going to have to see here, because even here, these ranges and stuff, really that 10-cent mark is going to be where we can start showing strength here and putting the pathway out for a potential run. Because we have 10 up to like 11.11, and that's going to be roughly where we are. But if you look here, looks like we're forming some kind of pattern. These are daily candles, so we'll see. It's a trend until it's not, right? So this is certainly great as well, as far as for these rejections and the overall trend that we haven't broken trend. What was this, since early March 23rd. So we've been on this trend for about a month now, almost. So like another week, we'll be looking at a month here on this trajectory. So as long as this continues, we'll be in position to retest around that 10-cent mark. And we're not threatening the 70 right now. We've seen some breakaways like mid-range before. Not preferably, but more than likely that'll happen if we see like Bitcoin tank or something. But we've seen those rejections kind of like midway. But overall, based off of the last trend, we're in position here to retest that that 10-cent mark. And that's really going to be where our ceiling is, because if for right now, because if you see that if we break above that 10-11 cent mark, we're due, but even based off of like the gaps and stuff that we've seen, just kind of taking a similar analysis what we did with Bitcoin, this will put us in the run for that 15 to 17 cent mark, which is really the doorway to getting to the 20-cent mark. So that is going to be like those numbers you have to hit. The pool of liquidity here, where we've had the biggest fight, is obviously at around entering into it around like the 718 mark. And that's going to be, I guess, a comparable would be maybe like the $25,000 range for Bitcoin. So Doge falling from 906 right now to 7. It's just like 711, 7 range. That is going to be the equivalent of Bitcoin going from around 30K to around 25K down to grab some of that liquidity. That's what these zones are here. And typically it's not even a surprise that you see this kind of run, because this is our biggest pool of liquidity area. So we dip down here, what is this, to around the 6-cent range on, what was this, March the 9th. And we've been on a run. So that is not really a surprise here, because if you look here, you'll see that this is typically where the liquidity lies, and this is where you'll get the rejections. And as far as the rejections go for it to push down, and that's regardless of short pressure, because even here, this is back in June of 2022. You'll see that this was when we were having, I remember this time, we were having tremendous short pressure here, and they're trying to get it down to probably even like a penny. And they got it down to like around 5 cents, like a flash crash down to like 4 something. And then boom. So it gets very, very hard to push it down here. So this is, if worst case scenario, if we see that sell off for Bitcoin because it's not strong enough to break above 30 to turn that resistance into support, we're going to see possibly a reach down to grab some additional liquidity before you retest again, right? So again, that's the same thing we're doing. We're going liquidity pool to liquidity pool. And the question is, as always, is where are you going to find it? So without a catalyst or something like that coming out, that will be more than likely where we're going to have to get that additional capital from before we can, in fact, retest. So that is what we're looking at for the state of the market, as far as for even if your favorite coin, if you're investing in some other coins and stuff like that. That's why I use Bitcoin, because we know that is a market indicator. So that is the likelihood that we're going to see a run in those ranges, so that you can kind of take it and get your own perspective based off of your portfolio and the different coins and stuff that you're invested in. And of course, hopefully you make some money. So with that being said, the blueprint to trading course is now live on the anomalous.investor.com. So certainly check that out. I made it affordable for everyone so that you can get your feet wet and learn the technicals and start investing and stuff like that, so that you can make money daily. So with that being said, I appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys in the next video.